thank you for joining us. It is my extreme pleasure, actually, to introduce Jody Underwood because she is a dear personal friend of mine. One of the things that's beautiful about what we are building in New Hampshire is a sense of community and real friendship. And I met Jody, I don't know.
Just when you moved.
Yeah. They were our neighbors when we used to live in the Upper Valley. We lived about 3 miles apart. We have had many fun adventures together. They were the people at the Bardo Farm that convinced me winters are actually fun and not something to dread, because the first time we had a big storm, Neil, who's one of the co-owners, came and fetched my husband and I and took us ATV driving and snow tubing and convinced me I should buy snowshoes for winter, and to have a sense of every time a storm comes in, this is awesome because one, I don't have to go to work, I can do laundry and maybe watch some movies and catch up on my emails, and then I can go out and really enjoy the beautiful splendor that is part of this state. Jody has a very impressive pedigree, which ends with a Ph.D. And when we met them, they're hog farmers, right? And then I was like, oh no, wait, you guys are NASA scientists and small business owners, and they had all moved from Philadelphia about 2 years before we did, so 2006.
I think 6 months, 2007, yeah.
And of course, you can read her bio. She's an educational researcher, but really what she is just a wonderful speaker and a wonderful friend, and I think you guys are all in for a treat. So, Jody Underwood.
Thank you, Carla. Am I actually on mic here? Like, is it on? We're good for her, but yeah, this isn't set up for me to stand there, which is too bad, but that's fine. Okay. So thank you, Carla. That was beautiful. So I am Jody Underwood, and with my husband Ian and this other couple, Neil and Emily Smith, we started Bardo Farm, and that is one of our pigs, and he's very happy. So just so you know, I'm probably going to talk for about a half hour, maybe a little more, depending on how slowly I talk or fast I talk. You can interrupt me with questions if it's about particular things. If it goes on too long, I'll say hold it till the end, but that's fine. I don't mind being interrupted. I'm going to talk about freedom today and self-sufficiency and how that really is leading to freedom and control of your own lives. How we do it at Bardo Farm, how we do it in New Hampshire, why this is a good place to do it. I'm going to talk about the Free State Project and how I got here, coming from the city, coming from Brooklyn, New York. And how you can do, maybe not all of it, maybe parts of it, hopefully convince you to move to New Hampshire for the Free State Project if you haven't already done so. So first, Bardo Farm. Where is it? It's in Croydon, New Hampshire, which is B. We're here in Nashua, and I'm giving you directions to my house, basically. We're about an hour and a half north of here, going towards Vermont. 91 is the border of Vermont. This is Massachusetts below us. My farm is in the middle of nowhere, and yet 5 minutes from the highway, so I can get anywhere I want. Perfect. Pretty quickly, anyway. And we're a half hour from the Upper Valley. Carla mentioned the Upper Valley. I mean, that's sort of where we do most of our stuff. There's a lot going on up there. You can get, it's just normal. You can get anything you want, even though we're in the middle of nowhere ourselves. All right, so we are off the grid, and what that means, and everybody wants to know, do you have electricity? Yes, we have electricity. What we don't have is public cables. We basically generate our own heat, and it's sustainable, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And sustainable versus self-sufficient, there's interesting terms, and they're precise. They have meanings. We do generate our own electricity. We start with solar, and then we have generators, propane and diesel. They are not self-sustaining. Well, they're not sustainable. We have to rely on outside things. So in that sense, not so much off the grid, right? We require internet. We couldn't do what we do without internet, and part of what I do is telecommute. And that's a piece that I actually didn't even plan to talk about. So I need the internet for what I do, but we also need it for the farm, just to learn stuff. The most important thing for us is we're in control of what we do. So winters in New Hampshire, every year, up until this year, although the winter's not over yet, it still could happen, there's been an ice storm in New Hampshire, and electricity goes out in, let's say, half the state, and that never happens to us. We always have electricity, we always have heat, unless we forget to turn on the generator, but you know, that's our own problem. And as I will keep talking to you about, we strive to be self-sufficient. And what do I mean by self-sufficient? Not self-sustaining. We like to trade. We don't want to grow bananas, but we want to eat them. We can't grow bananas in New Hampshire. You need the right climate for it. We like specialization. We want to do stuff. We want to do stuff that we like to do. We want to do stuff that we're good at. If we had to do everything, we couldn't, so we have to specialize. So we're trying to be self-sufficient, but not self-sustaining. And the basic idea is to reuse and replenish. Trading for sustainability, and so on. And again, this is going to come around as I talk more. So I'm going to talk about heat. We have 210 acres in Croydon, and it's mostly wooded. So that's a great start for heat. What we do is we take trees that have either fallen and died or are still standing and died, and we cut them down. This is, well, it's wood management, forest management. We cut it up and we make firewood and we put it in our wood stove, and this is normal in the Northeast, in New England anyway. People from outside of New England just can't really relate to this. And it heats our house amazingly well, and in turn, as I said, we manage the forest. Oh, this is great. I just have to tell you that I formatted this on my Mac, and we had technology problems before. I had to take a thumb drive and take the file and throw it on here, so some things might not be formatted well. I didn't do that. I just...
Fire to the house?
Right, exactly. And then the woods burn down, and right, all's lost. That's right. So this is actually sustainable. It's this whole cycle that works. We take care of the woods, it takes care of us, and it keeps going. There's no reason to stop it unless we have a really bad fire. How do we do it at the farm, the sustainability? And again, a theme going through my talk is it's all about poop. And my bio actually talks about that a little bit if you've seen it. The formatting, I so apologize for this, oh my God. So if there's something to eat, there's something to eat it. I swear to God, this guy was the other way. So this is Chris, one of the oxen that we got when we first got here. He'll eat grass, he'll poop on the grass, the nutrients will go into the soil, and there's more grass. And that's a simple cycle, but I can't wait to see what this next one's going to look like. But we have a web. It's much more complicated than just an ox and grass. So we start with grass. The grass feeds some of our animals, rabbits and oxen. And by the way, I know somebody's going to ask this. In the winter, we really don't have grass. It's covered with snow. Hay and other things are fed to the animals. And we'll talk more about that later, too. And they, in turn, produce poop. And it's fun. I don't know if you can we shut down the front lights? Is that possible? Oh, yeah, whatever. Just poop identification is really interesting. You walk in the woods, you see moose poop, and you can identify these animals just based on the poop. You know, cow pies you've heard about. So, right, this is the ox poop. And in turn, the chickens we have will eat the poop and eat the bugs in the poop. And then the chickens will, and that's Drumstick, our rooster, and they will feed the garden. The chickens will poop in the garden, and that will fertilize and allow plants to grow. And then the garden feeds the people, and then the people feed the pigs. Don't get fed to the pigs, but feed the pigs. And then the pigs, in turn, root up the ground, and they fertilize it, and the whole cycle network web begins again. One piece is missing. People also poop. We generally do it in toilets. And it's on our list of how can we actually use that stuff, because we are a lot of people and we generate a lot of poop. Why waste anything? So Neil, he actually manages Bardo Farm. And this is his web. And so this is some of the stuff that he was working on. It informed the web that I drew. And it really, and he added other things as well, right? There's meat, there's eggs, there's oil. We have emu oil. There's gardens. There has to be beer. And I was looking through his notebook, and I found this hysterical. So this is a to-do list that he has. And it really is all about poop. It's his shit to-do list, right? No, I mean, this is an accident. It was great. That's all the other stuff that goes on the property. So, I mean, I'm hammering this in. The key idea, use everything. Use it again, and one more time, and see if someone else can use it. And then go back to one. I mean, we just really try to use things as much as possible. And then we like to put it back somehow, and ideally in better shape than we found it. So that's where fertilizer comes in, right? And we used to actually save our ox poop when we just had oxen, and we would let it just sit for 6 months or whatever, and then the next year, I mean, it never stunk, and we put it in the garden. I mean, just gorgeous stuff. It was amazing. Pigs are even more amazing, how easy it is. Okay, so what do? We work, well, there's supermarkets, and they get rid of tons of food. We call this an island of poop. And they have expired food that they toss. And so we finally, and it took a long time to do this, but we have agreements with a few supermarkets and some restaurants that we take their expired food. But supermarkets are amazing. So we actually get their food, and let me tell you, it's not all expired. It's not even all half bad. I mean, it's amazing. But we do sign something to say we will not eat it, and we will not sell it. And that's what we did. We signed it. So we take the food that we get from the restaurants. Carla got that. And we feed it to our animals, and that goes into the Bardo Poop Network, right? But we also do other things. It's not just about feeding the animals. We also take, say, vegetable oil and car oil that, you know, from doing oil changes, and we use it to heat things and for energy and stuff like that. It doesn't power the solar panels, but that's just my energy icon here. And again, so we're putting it all back into play as much as we can. One of the things we do also, we used to call it a junk pile, but we went to, there's this place called D Acres, and they're a farm, some people have heard of it. And they call their junk pile the resource pile. So we like that, and we call our junk pile a resource pile now. And it's just all sorts of stuff that comes in handy you can't even imagine. We like to hide it, though. We don't like to look at that stuff, so we try to place it appropriately. So now I'm going to turn it around to you, and I'll give you the general way of looking at it. So in a normal household, revenue comes in, you buy food, it comes in, your waste is basically food scraps and, you know, containers or whatever, tons of containers, I'm sure. I ask you, how can you make better use of your waste? You know what a lot of people do, what they're starting to do, and I see a trend in this way, that people are composting their own stuff, and if they have their own gardens, they're using it for that, and some people bring it to local farms and local gardens, and maybe a community garden if you're in a city, and you can do that. Here's my formatting. City people are even getting chickens, which is just awesome, right? And they get eggs from it, and they can fertilize their gardens. I mean, this is all about, you know, it's living responsibly.
And actually, I do believe a bill just passed that allows people in New Hampshire there was a limitation on the number of chickens you were allowed to keep, and that number has been upped, so city folk can get their chicken on.
Nice. And then, of course, there's buy local, right? That saves on packaging. If you just go to the farm and get your stuff, you forget all that extra packaging. I mean, it's just, this is a great trend that's going on. Wow. There's a poop quiz now. So I'm going to ask you for answers here. What do you throw out that could be useful to you? Like something you're like, wow, I don't know what to do with that. I'm just going to throw it out. Yeah?
Eggshells.
Eggshells. What would you do with them?
I compost them. I use them to fresh them up and use them to eat the slugs from in my garden.
Nice. Nice. Anybody?
Food scraps.
Food scraps. So you can compost that. Like, right, you would just normally throw that out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's nice glass jars that things come in, and then you use them for storing other things.
Nice. Yeah.
Plastic eggs, if you buy your eggs, I used to when I was in the Upper Valley get my eggs from Jody. Now I have to buy them, so you can keep your containers and give them to your farmer friends to sell at farmers market.
We get people giving us egg cartons all the time, and we love it. So yeah, look at your local farms. Containers is one of the things in case you didn't have an idea. But my second question is, what do you throw out that could be useful to others? And it could be these things, but maybe other things that maybe you couldn't use. Can you think of anything? Metal. Poop. I don't even want to go there. Metal, we use scrap metal on our farm all the time. I mean, so when we have stuff like, we had an old VCR we wanted to get rid of first. We took off all the plastic and the metal, and we have people that do welding. It's just useful stuff, and you wouldn't even think of it. Don't throw it out. Save it. Give it to somebody. Clothing, obviously. You can, bring those to thrift stores or, local churches or wherever, right? Things that can be reused. You can use them as rags. You can make new things with clothing that you're ready to throw out, right? You don't have to just throw it out. And then, of course, there's trading. What can you give for somebody else instead of just paying for things and move into this agorist market area? So, the way that we think about it has to do with flexibility. You just want to be more flexible about how you think about things. This one-size-fits-all, we all grew up that way, that this is how you do things. You buy your food in the supermarket, you throw out the packaging, and you throw out any food from your plate. Oh, what do we do with the food on our plates? We give them to our dogs. Our dogs clean our plates before we wash the dishes. And I saw a great picture on Facebook the other day. There was actually a dog in the dishwasher. It was great. I was like, wow, I wish I'd thought of that. But we do it first. And getting away from that rule-following mentality, right? And that's what the government wants us to do. So we're sort of victims of that whole thing, right? Of doing these things the way we've always done them. What I want to point out here is that there's a trade-off between sustainability and luxury. I mentioned bananas, right? We like bananas, so we want to eat them. We don't have to grow them. But there's another story. So we have Bardo Farm Fest. I would take this off. I have an ad on my back, but I have a microphone, so I can't. Anyway, I'll get there. You'll see it. People come. It's the end of May. It's Memorial Day weekend, Bardo Farm Festival. It'll be our 4th year that we're running it. And there's actually a flyer in your bags. It has my talk in the front of it, and inside there's a Bardo Farm Festival ad. Somebody asked us, so people come and camp out for the weekend, and they asked us if we had cabins or something a little less rustic for people to stay in, and I was like, well, we don't actually, but what's the particular problem you have? He's like, well, I have a friend who she'd have a really hard time just pooping over a log. That was his big issue. And I was like, oh wait, we have flush toilets in the campground. And he was like, really? It's like, yeah, and hot showers also. It's like, just because we're trying to be self-sufficient doesn't mean we want to be uncomfortable. So we try to make ourselves comfortable in whatever way we can. So all right, now my story. I'm going to take a little turn here. Right. How did I get, sorry, I have to do this. How did I get to Bardo Farm? Poop. I was buried in it. All right, it's not that dramatic, really. But as Carla said, I came from a city. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in an apartment building. And to let you know just really where I started, I moved to New Jersey when I was 24, and that spring was the first time I had ever seen a tree blossom. I did not know trees blossomed until I was 24. And now here I am on a farm. Nobody that I grew up with really gets it. And I'm a Jewish girl from Brooklyn, and I'm raising pigs. So they can't wrap their, my mother had a really hard time with that. But so there we are. So we're living in a suburb outside of Philadelphia. This is our house and our 2 cars. I totaled the right one last week, but that's another story. I have my dance floor in my house. And we have projects, and we're busy, and we have good jobs, and that I mentioned my husband, and everything's great, right? Oh, and I have dogs, and they're wonderful. Life is perfect, but it's actually boring. Like, there was something missing in my life, and I couldn't have told you what it was. And then, just like Carla met Neil and Emily, we met Neil and Emily, and they introduced us to different ideas. They're let's just say, young enough to be our kids, but just barely. And they had all these great ideas about what they wanted to do. And what we realized was we had shared goals with them. And we wanted to start an alternative school. We wanted to create businesses with multiple revenue streams. Maybe we'd retire early. Of course, retire, what does that even mean, especially when you're living on a farm? But that's another issue. Back then, we decided to pursue this, and we started looking around and talking about where we could do this and what we could do. And where, of course, is the first question. So we had requirements, and these are them. Some are ours, some are, you know, Neil and Emily, Ian and me, different ones, whatever, some overlap, and so on. New Hampshire really fit these things, and so did the Free State Project, which should be a little lower there, but, yeah, whatever. And so now another tangent is how I got into the Free State Project. Ian and I had read about the Free State Project years before this, and we thought, wow, that's something we want to do someday. At some point, when we're ready, like some adventure we want to take or something, or ready for a big move, that's what we're going to do. But we didn't sign up. Honestly, we didn't even know about the 20,000 signature thing. We just thought, perfect idea, let's do it someday, right? And so now I'm going to turn it to you. How many people in this room have moved to New Hampshire for the Free State Project? Awesome. How many, now hands down, how many people have signed up for the Free State Project that have not yet moved? Okay, great. How many people are going to sign up this weekend? All right. And yes, that's my next question. How many people lived in New Hampshire before the Free State Project? That's great, and we love that. And how many people don't really know what the Free State Project is? One, okay. So before, I will talk about the Free State Project a little, but let me just say, if you haven't signed up, don't do what I did. I mean, if you are like me and you say, yeah, someday, and if you sign up, you'll make that someday happen, just like we did. I mean, that's your commitment to it, and you know it's a good idea, and you know you want to be part of it. So I say sign up and make yourself move. And for those of you who can move sooner, even better, because moving is the thing to do. I'm going to quickly run through what the Free State Project is. We want to recruit 20,000 liberty-loving people to move to New Hampshire, or rather, well, to sign up for it and move within 5 years after the 20,000 signatures are achieved. You live in New Hampshire already? Oh, okay, so I don't have to sell it that way. Okay. The idea is, from our perspective, is to help New Hampshire live free or die, right? I mean, my town, we're so like-minded with them. I mean, the Free State Project doesn't even come up. We're just who we are, and we just think like them. And so it's to help New Hampshire be more of what it is and show the rest of the country that we can actually do this here. We can have a free market. We can do all these things on our own without the government forcing us to do things. That's the general idea. So, and for us, the Free State Project is about taking control of your life, which is a segue back into moving to Bardo Farm. So, any questions or comments about Free State Project before I get back to this? All right. So we looked around New Hampshire. We were going to go for a large property because we were going to build an off-the-grid house. This was our plan from the beginning, and we found something that had a house on it already that was completely off the grid. And we were going to take like 2 years to build the house, that we wouldn't even have been able to move up for another couple of years, and suddenly it all just fell into place. I had a really good job when I lived down in Pennsylvania, and I basically moved up and told them I was going to telecommute until and if somebody told me I couldn't. It was pretty risky, and it's kind of interesting the way it worked out, because they let me telecommute for a while, and then somebody got wind of it. We're trying to work. I had the support of my managers. It was great, and they were working up their tree or whatever, their hierarchy to get to the top. But before that happened, somebody else got wind that I had moved, and we don't telecommute, and suddenly they put a nix on the whole thing. So they hired me back as a contractor to finish one of my projects, but not the other. I have to tell you, it was the best thing that ever happened, because I hated the other project. And so I continued working basically half-time for another 9 months on that project. They finally hired somebody for that other project to replace me, and she lived in California and was telecommuting. It was really weird. Okay, so here we are. We found a beautiful house on a beautiful property. It met all of our needs, everything we were looking for. And we had a barn. And here's the start of the farm. We had a couple of barn cats. We had a couple of goats, and we inherited these things with the property. The people who had owned it before had these animals and wasn't sure what they were going to do with them. If we bought the property and didn't want them, they were thrilled that we would take them. And we had a team of oxen. Team is 2. Oxen is plural. Ox is singular, just so you know. And we had about a dozen chickens, egg-laying chickens, and that's what we had. And then Neil and Emily got married. So that was, we moved there September 2007. They got married June 2008. The year after, we had an anniversary party, and then that turned into Bardo Farm Festival. So, and that was around Memorial Day weekend. So this is how that tradition went. It's in celebration of their anniversary. We had a goat as a ring bearer at the wedding. And I'm in there too. I'm one of the bridesmaids in there. And here's the kicker. Somebody, as a wedding present, gave them 2 piglets. So now suddenly we got to figure out how to do this. And they were adorable, I have to tell you. They would come running out of their pen every morning. Yes, running out. They were in a pen. They weren't supposed to get out. They'd come running up to the house every morning. Hi, we're here, all really happy and cute. And we'd come out and we'd have to go feed them. And they would run back through the hole that they had dug to go get fed. So they went back. They were great. But how do you raise these things, right? So we use the internet. That's what I'm saying. It's really required. And we can do it now because of the internet. We can go anywhere and do this stuff. And we got books. We have tons of books on how to not just pigs, but the whole property, off the grid, the whole thing. Our neighbors, we use our neighbors all the time, and especially in the beginning. And of course, trial and error. So these pigs turned out to be hyperactive. Nobody else we had known that we had met had pigs like this. No, you just put up electric wires. It's fine. No, not so much. But we figured it out. No major catastrophes. We just do trial and error, and we learn. And then suddenly, one day, they're not so cute anymore. How do you harvest them? And so this is my great neighbor story. So we had some friends. Well, friends. No, they weren't friends yet. Now they're friends. They were harvesting 4 pigs. Harvest, right? That's slaughter, okay? They were harvesting 4 pigs one weekend, a couple of weeks before we were going to do ours. And I mean, we knew what ready was. We had looked it up, how the weight had to be and so on. How to figure out their weight. Were you going to pick them up at 250 pounds, put them on a scale? No. There's measurements and whatnot. They invited us to their harvest. They had us help a little bit for, whatever. And then they're like, all right, so for yours, you're going to need this and that and the other. And I have an extra one of these, and why don't you take that? And these are people we didn't really know, We just moved to New Hampshire. It was great. And then they showed up to our harvest, and they coached us. It was awesome. It was so great. And then we did it again the year after. We got 4 pigs the following year, and we kept going. And now we breed pigs. So we have about 17 breeding pigs, and currently we might have fewer than 100 piglets right now, because of course we're selling them and so on. And it used to be that we would sell what we couldn't eat, and now we more eat what we can't sell, if that makes sense. So it's really turned into a farm. It's a business now, so it's a different feeling. And what I have to tell you too is my husband and I, once it turned into that, we're not as involved in the day-to-day farm now, and Neil and Emily went and ran with it. This is what they wanted to do. It wasn't what we wanted to do. We still support it. We do background stuff. We come out and give talks about it. But we do all sorts of support, web support, monetary, whatever. But we're involved, but we're not in the day-to-day anymore. And this is what we currently have. We're starting to get even more focused. Like guinea hens and quail, one of the restaurants we deal with, that's what they want. So now we're giving them a custom farm and raising things that they need. And if you've never seen a pig birth, you just have to go visit a farm and see it. It's just the most amazing thing. These little tiny piglets get out and just start walking and looking for teat. I mean, it's just amazing. And this is Brooklyn girl, right? I just had never seen these things before. Everything was amazing to me. Our day-to-day is very busy, right? Feeding care of the animals, the top 3 bullets, you can imagine all of that. We also do pig roasts. We do maple syrup, the old-fashioned way, buckets on trees. I welcome anybody to come up and help. It's quite an experience. And we actually use it I mean, there's no way we're making money on this because of the amount of labor involved when you do buckets on trees. And so what we do it as a fundraising event to help improve the property. Last year, we expanded our solar panels through the money that we made from maple syrup. So if anybody wants to help us do that, we'd be thrilled. And syrup season is coming very, very soon. We do farmers markets, we do all these other things. We build, and we have tons of people who like building, and then they get into crafts, woodworking, metal, and so on. All sorts of neat stuff. This is the current gang, more or less. This was after they moved some pigs from one pen to another, so you can see a lot of pig stuff and mud on these people. And some people are in and out. And the dogs, too, of course. There's always dogs around. I think right now we have about 5 dogs living on the property. Almost as many as people. Can't say it's not hard work, because it is, but it's also, it's learnable. It's really not hard to learn. There's always people to help. If, you know, on our farm, of course, we already know what's going on, but there's always new things, and then there's always the internet and people all around. People come to us to learn things. We have workshops, you know, how to harvest chickens, pigs, build things, whatever. And I think if I can do it, anybody can do it. If you want to add more self-sufficiency to your life, there are steps you can take to do it, and I guess we've talked about that a bit. And I'm going to finish up with some stories about laws and how they affect us. So the USDA is federal, and the New Hampshire Health and Human Services Department is the state level one. And of course, they all have one size fits all, and the size is a mega corporation, not a small farm. And they also sometimes have inconsistent interpretations of what needs to happen. So how it affects us. Now, we can sell one-on-one, you know, to you. I can sell you chickens and rabbits, no problem. That's just not a big deal. No restrictions at all. Pigs, however, I can only sell you either a half pig or a whole pig, person to person. I can't sell you parts. You want bacon? Can't do it. You know, and it's interesting. Now, if everybody wants bacon, though, right? So if I were to choose how I were going to sell my pigs, I might choose to only sell half pigs, because I can't just get rid of my bacon. I got to get rid of everything. So that might be a good business decision on my part, but the fact that they're not letting me make that decision is infuriating. But it gets better. So at any rate, that's what we do, and we do everything above board because we don't want to lose our property, honestly. Restaurants, however, are a different story, and we've just begun to have restaurant customers. So, chickens. The USDA has an exemption for if you sell fewer than 10,000 chickens in a year, you don't have to get USDA approval. Okay? The state decided, though, that they didn't want to take the USDA law in its entirety. They wanted to write their own law because they wanted to protect the small farms. That's who they were looking out for. They left out the chicken exemption. So we can't sell our chickens to restaurants. We can still sell them to you. So what did we do? We went to our state reps and said, what's going on here? And they were like, oh, we didn't mean for that to happen, but it's the law. It happened. And so now they wrote a new bill, and it's there now, and hopefully that'll pass so that we can actually sell chickens to restaurants. I mean, it's just insane. And so these are our state reps, people we know, I mean, some of them we know, and they're really looking out for us, but they don't have the expertise. They didn't ask us to read it, they know us. I mean, there's connections to us. We could have read it and helped them make it the right way, but they're just not experts. All right, this is a good story. Rabbits are not considered food. I don't know what they consider them, but they're not considered food by the USDA. However, the State Department says that we have to have rabbits USDA approved. And here I stand. So pigs. Pigs to sell to restaurants must be processed by a USDA facility. The nearest USDA facility to us is an hour away. Here's a great story. We made an appointment to go down there, and they gave us an appointment on a Sunday. And it was like, really? A Sunday? Yes, a Sunday. We work on Sundays. Awesome. We go down, they're closed. So we drove an hour each way for nothing, for absolutely nothing. Comment?
UVM in Vermont is came out in the trial program with mobile abattoirs. I think they've sold them off now. Anything like that?
We don't have anything like that, but it's something that I'll get to in a second. Sorry? Halal?
Halal and kosher, you've got your market.
Kosher pigs? Awesome. My mother will be so happy. Yeah, chickens, I get it, yeah. Right. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So that's part one for pigs, right? Part two was that, so this one restaurant that we do deal with, they got us an exemption for a farm-to-table event that they were hosting so that they could serve our pig, and so they had a lot of people doing the same kind of thing. And they were startled at how different and better quality the meat was that we gave them compared to what they had received from USDA facilities before that. So yet again, what are they trying to stop us from doing? I mean, we want to keep our customers happy. Why would we do a bad job? The USDA doesn't have that in their docket. You know, that's not their goal. It doesn't make sense. So hopefully we can make some change in these areas so we can do what we need to do. So we've considered becoming a USDA facility. It's not completely off the table. I knew I had another bullet there. But, I mean, so there's a lot of paperwork, as you can imagine, and it costs and so on. But here, this to me was the kicker. We must provide an office and private bathroom to a USDA employee to come and watch our process happen. A private bathroom and a full office. I'm just like, we can't share the same toilet paper? Like, is there... I just don't understand it. Huh. Sorry, what was that? That's right. Oh, I'm liking this guy outside that box. All right. That's great. So we're still considering it, actually. We might eventually do that because then we would have the local farms coming to us. That might be a good business for us. So I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Bardo Farm is an unintentional community. Right, as you know, how people talk about these intentional communities. Oh, there's a need for a USDA facility? Let's see if we'll do that. Everything has not been planned. You know, nothing, in fact, has really been planned in the long term. We just do sort of the next thing, things we're interested in, things we want to do.
How do you prevent inbreeding? You have pigs, you have chickens. Do you go to others saying, well, you have a rooster, we have hens, we don't want inbreeding from our own farm? Like, how do you prevent that?
Yeah, it's planned husbandry, of course. I mean, we have boars and sows for our, you know, our pigs, right? And we sell all the piglets, so there is no inbreeding.
Oh, okay.
Do you see? I mean, with the chickens, whatever happens, happens. If they lay eggs, we're happy. And they are free range, our chickens, so we actually do get that sometimes. But we haven't had any crazy things happen yet.
You don't want siblings crossbreeding, because then there's all those problems.
I understand. Yeah.
Okay.
We haven't had any. No, that stuff's planned. Yeah. So this is my summary slide. Just basically everything I talked about today. Hopefully I made a good summary here. Self-sufficiency, we believe, is taking control of your life, not being wasteful, being responsible. At Bardo Farm, this is what we're trying to do. And New Hampshire is a really good place to do it. There's just so many resources here too, right? You have, you know, woods and water. It's very rich in that sense. It also, New Hampshire has a small and accessible government, as well as neighbors that are just wonderful, all like-minded people. The Free State Project is striving to help New Hampshire be more New Hampshire, as I said earlier. And again, I'm a girl from Brooklyn. If I can do it, you can do it. My closing is come visit. I mentioned Bardo Farm Fest, end of May. We also have something called Test Drive New Hampshire. Come for Bardo Fest, stay for Pork Fest. Use us as your base as you check out New Hampshire to see where you want to live. Work on the farm a couple hours a day, something to that effect. We're on Facebook. We just released our webpage, bardofarm.com. Feel free to go check it out and register for Bardo Fest because that's also available. Questions?
Yeah, I have two questions actually. The first one is about the size of your farm. You mentioned it's 210 acres, and that when you started looking, you were looking for something large. Were you thinking more than 10?
We were looking for 100.
100.
We were looking for 100 acres, and some dollar amount. And the real estate agent that we went to said, well, let's expand that to 250, and let's expand the dollar amount. And we're glad she did.
Okay, and then the other question I had was about, you mentioned trading a lot, that you barter services or goods or whatever. Did that start out intentionally, or I mean, do you have specific systems that you use, or is it now just that you have neighbors that you're like, hey, I've got this extra, do you need read it, and then next week they come over and they say, hey.
It's more like that. Yeah, we don't have like a, this is worth that thing.
Like on Craigslist, there's actually like a trading correct, and I'm always looking at something like, yeah, but I don't have what you want.
You know, one of the ideas that we have is to be a center for that kind of thing, a bartering center of sorts, where you want that and you want that, and we help do the match and contain a list of people that want different things to trade. I don't know how we would do that exactly, but it is something. Actually, we're thinking about doing it with farm equipment, with people who want an excavator, a backhoe, a tractor, and we would just house it for them, and the people who own those things would get the rent for it or whatever it is in kind or in money, either way. But yeah.
So is this self-sustaining financially, or are you getting money out of it, or putting money from your other income into it?
I have to say that I don't know at this moment, because Neil and Emily run the farm, and it's theirs. So I'm not on top of that. My feeling is there's been more money put into capital investment than that basically minimizes any kind of profit, but now that's sort of the new goal, to make sure that we actually are making money in this. And maybe we limit the animals, maybe we focus differently, and that is one of the discussions we're having right now.
You spoke earlier about specialization on your farm. In your area, geographically, I mean, anybody and everybody could jump right in, and you'd have just too much tomatoes and potatoes and garden herbs. But what's missing in your circles right now? What's the missing pieces?
You mean like in the Upper Valley and the whole? I couldn't answer that.
What do you want that you have to go outside for? Into the commercial market rather than to your circle of
Bananas, right? Wheat, bananas, they said,
yeah,
right? But wheat. Wheat. Like nobody's growing wheat in our area. So if we wanted to make our own bread, rice, whatever, we can't do that. That's missing. Honestly, we can grow almost any vegetable. We did artichokes one year, no problem. We have a
growing season.
Right. A growing season officially starts Memorial Day weekend and ends sometime in September, like the first frost, early October, something like that. But people extend those seasons by using greenhouses and so on. Off the grid is a little harder because electricity is expensive, but we do that.
Greenhouse.
We don't have electricity.
Oh. But you have greenhouses?
We have greenhouses, but we're limited because of the cost of electricity.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Apple trees and pears? Or
We have fruit trees. Yeah, we have an apple orchard. We've got probably, 15, 20 apple trees. We planted a pear tree and something else a couple of years ago. So yeah, that's actually, this is a good location for that. Yep. Sorry?
I was just curious how long ago they were.
They came with the property. The apple trees did. Yeah, we did. Yeah. Kate?
How do you manage keeping other critters from eating your vegetables in your garden woods?
For the oxen, a simple electric fence keeps them out, although they do get in sometimes. The chickens will get. Chickens are a little harder. I mean, we're moving back. They're free range right now, but we're moving back to having them more pasture contained because there are some problems with that. It's not a huge problem, except like the pigs get out and they might go rampage something, but pigs get out. That's just what happens. I don't have a definitive answer for that. We just deal.
Oh, and I buy my
Pork
pigs from Bardo. They're amazing. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, Kate.
I'm going back to regular.
Thank you. You'll get paid later.
Have you considered alcohol to be a gas, like David Bloom talks about?
Say it again.
Alcohol can be a gas, in other words, build a still on your farm to make alcohol for fuel, for electricity, for lighting, for your...
I could almost guarantee Neil has thought about that, and I don't know about it, so not my area. Yeah.
create any of your own biodiesel?
Not yet, but we have a large collection of vegetable oil and a number of diesel run vehicles that we're thinking about doing that with.
Since you don't have service lines, how do you access the internet?
There's two ways. One is just through normal cell connection, and we then have a router, and it's wireless. It works really well, actually. And the other way is amazing. We have line of sight to a house across we're over a valley. They're on the other side of the valley, and we use their DSL.
Do they know that?
Yes, they do. We actually, DSL just came to our town last year, and so we set up their DSL for them so we could set this up. So, and we needed to install an antenna on their side. So, yeah, that'd have been hard to do without them knowing.
With the animals, are there any breeds that have just stood out so much you'd recommend them for the chickens or whatever?
I mean, there are normal ones. The Rhode Island Reds for laying, and then there's and I'm going to blank on the meat. I'm sorry?
What is your ox? What breed?
He is, oh God, I'm sorry. I know these things, I'm just not going to be able to come up with it. I don't have to come up with these answers very often. And they're more pets than anything, actually, the oxen. Yeah.
How many years have you been at Bardo Farm?
We moved there 2007, so 5.5 years. Anybody else?
Are you still finding new markets?
We are, yeah. So one of the people that's living on the property now, he's really interested in sales. That's what he's good at, and so he's the one that's been pulling us out to high-end restaurants, which is an interesting approach to, trying to raise that revenue line. Yeah.
So you mentioned there was this photo of their Bardo gang. Talk about unintentional community. Can you go more into that? These folks are living on your farm?
They are. They live and work there, and they work very hard, and it's basically they get room and board for their efforts. And there are some deals, like for sales, they'll get some percentage of it, and we try to work that out with people. Starting with Test Drive New Hampshire, people are welcome to come and visit and stay for a weekend, and if you're interested in longer term, we can talk about that. We can see if it would work. What people have done in the warm weather is camp out in our campgrounds, and this past year we actually built some cabins that they lived in over the winter. So we're starting to grow that way. We're going to build a community center, more like bunks, so that there are places for people to stay in the winter. We're growing. We're doing it. So yeah, if you want to talk more, we can talk. If not, okay, that's fine. Yep.
What about education? You wrote that your dream was some kind of independent school, and also there was something about internship, and also, as far as I know, you are on a school board. So may you tell something about education on your farm or in your community?
Sure. So the Bardo Project is what we originally called the whole thing. So now Bardo is a Tibetan word that means between lives. And the idea there is that you shed your material possessions and any link to the real world, lack of a better word, and so that you can make as much progress as possible towards nirvana. So once you have no connections to the earth, that's what frees you to do that. So what we imagined Bardo being was a place where people could come and not have to deal with their regular lives, so they could figure out what they want to do. And so most of the people living on the farm now are of those sorts. And for different reasons. Every one of them has their own story. What we had decided to do with the alternative school was to focus on people who were floundering, actually. We thought, we'll target people in their early 20s. We thought about going K-12 of some sort, and we still may. We'll probably start with camps. But with licensing and so on, it just seemed like such a headache to do. Let's just do it more informally. And so that's when we decided to go this route. So we're actually moving in that direction, and we will start with camps and for younger kids in the summer to learn, wood skills and whatever, just all different sorts of self-sustaining things. And we have a lot of people that can do that. So maybe not this year, but maybe next year we'll be starting with that. Did I hit all your points?
Montessori has a thing for slightly older kids called Erg something. Maybe you want to look into that model as a farm immersion kind of thing.
Oh, that's interesting. We have a local Montessori, and maybe we could just work with them.
And sort of like where they graduate.
That's cool. Nice. Anybody else? I will be around all weekend if anybody wants to talk to me. I am now done with all my responsibilities. So thank you for coming.